lo in le jambo di sanje ba jo yi dang do ya ta ta jing de ma bi zi xue xian de ma le zi de ji guo le so xian le xie ni ji lian ji ji de jian dang dong ba ni yu yu jian jiao guo wa tang是吧yu lian ji ji de wa qin bi ji xie dang an ni yu jian dong ba ni ka shi yu dong ba ni dang yu jian lian ji ge de wa qin bu ni wu de yu dang yu jian de jiao guo ne gong guo le是吧也才去清晨，多半就那tham gia营的，是得来现行，虽然先没就老百姓正当光芒听营，但就你来吃完呀听营喏，现在他都送他，多半就那tham gia听营的现在，我的牛米生的我什么都娘说娘心，有什么事呢？他心都吃吧，是吧？我让做他妈我来那，有什么他有啊的。你说我都觉得他妈完了7、8、9、3个男孩说我都去过嘛的，我听着，他说的，那就为牛没什么的，我什么都娘说娘行，但那就完了，南京那个说我什么大把有呀，大把去那去他家牛嘛，很久就有啥子南主人吧，哦，牛嘛提南就嘛人吧，看啥修讲，俺的写话没就话印章，大把去那他们家人的。太来现行，虽然现没就是谁干了，确实就牛马天那么多人吧，牛马天那就没人把看啥确实下没就了，哦呀。
So as we said previously, then, as far as this, the two great bliss, the connate great bliss, which is called compassion, and emptiness, have to be combined together as object and subject. Emptiness as object, and the great bliss, connate great bliss, as compassion as the subject, the perceiving subject here. And then there's another quotation here from the collection of dohas. Dohas, again, is the name of a meter and songs that are written in those meters. So there are collections of these songs in that meter. And so it says there, in this doha, it says, if one understands it, all is that. There's nothing other than that which someone can understand, or no one at all can understand anything other than that. That is reading, that is holding it, and that is also meditation as well. This is also holding the meaning of the treatises within one's heart. Or if you read it another way, you could say it's also explaining the essential meaning of the treatises there. There's no view which is not indicated by that. However, it solely depends upon the mouth of the guru, the instruction that one receives from a guru. And for someone for whom that which is said by the guru has entered into their heart, then it's like someone who sees a treasure that is existing in the palm of their hands. Due to not noticing, by not noticing this constant nature, then childish beings are deceived. They're deceived by that, and by being led astray or mistaken due to that, without noticing that constant nature, then childish beings are deceived. And then the verses from the Doha there says, this is what Saraha says. So that means there then, when a yogin or yogini, somebody who's practicing yoga, has experienced this constant mind directly through direct perception and has come to understand it, then all phenomena are seen as the emanations of that very constant mind or constant nature here. La genji nyugme simdan nyugme rangshindi. Nyug simdan nyugme rangshindi. Nyugma sana.
Yumi sem sana.
No.
Sem korang go ngo jere.
아니고.
Yumi sem go ngo la rangshi sigre. Yumi sem ji cheni la rangshi koe. Rangshi ni koe yare. Sem ji rangshi sila. Sem dang sem ji cheni ni ga la koe yare.
yang nyugma krang di nyugme tsikti nyugma sana di yewane yopa yang gyundu yopa di kodun nyugma krang kodun kari yoresa
Jangan kaya kece lu sih, dia amjo trouble.
di nyugma sana kodun kari yoresa di
Thoma meba na rangje su yong ai de. Thoma meba na rangje sang ran zo de semen nyuma se de. Ma chu ba. Right? Thoma meba na rangje su yong ai de la nyumi sem si go de.
di gyundu neba 양식을 배.
그래서
gyundu
요아래.
gyundu
nyumi sem de thoma meba na gyundu 요아래. 아니 알아도 단다 내가 라 즉시 라방원도 주의가 뉴스인데 발라샤 다디 내가서 뉴스인데 요아래 때 뉴스인데 발라샤 말이요 말이 다 차타마비 내가 치비 내가 라 아니 이시 라바테 레왕가 마 뒤디 간라 아니 뉴스인데 온도 치고 치비 내가 라 다야 람디수 아니 이시 라바테다 유련내도 난저거 또베지 이시 라바가 뒤자마 뉴스는 원도 주는 뉴스는 더 지금 어디가 된 거래. 어다디
디 뉴스임당 심락바 니까 냠두
되지래 말이야. 뉴스음기 주시라바기 요래 차와체비 내가블라 뉴스음데 요래 차와체비 말이야. 고셈 요아체 참 미셔봐. 주시기 류라라 류라 차와체버기 녀와데 남자 주시가 되가 아니 뉴스임데 요제 제거래.
라디
주시
죽심
주시에서나 어디와 또바다 동메샤오 되리와 시와라바티 일단 주시에 되게 요라 차와체비 내가라 뉴스임데 발라샤인데 아마도 아니 요즘도 그 유라 차와치고 말이에요.
예. 발라샤스나
발라샤 온주도 마셔봐.
발냐. Okay. So I was asking a question about this term. There's a term here that I've been translating as constant, and it has two connotations. The term in Tibetan, for those who are reading the Tibetan, is nyukma, in Sanskrit nija. And this term has two connotations. One, and both actually apply in this context. One means that it has existed without any beginning, from the very beginning. And the other connotation of this term is that it's constantly there. So that's why I was translating it, and I'm going to translate it as constant. This mind, or this nature of mind and mind itself, is constant and beginningless. That is, it's always present within us. There's never any time that it's not there. But when we're engaged in, there are sort of grosser levels of mind. This is a subtle level of mind. We have to specify that first, that this constant mind, so-called, is a very subtle level of mind. And for ordinary people, we're talking here about people who have not engaged in practice of the higher levels of yoga and so forth. For those people, then this mind, although it's there constantly, it's not what is actually engaging with objects. Rather, it exists in a kind of latent state. It's dormant state. Yeah, dormant. That's right. So it's sort of dormant, whereas other grosser forms of mind, mental activity and mind are taking place. So, like for example, we have our sensory awarenesses, which are engaging with sense objects. And then we have thought, which is engaging with conceptual concepts and so forth. So when those levels of mind are operating, then this constant mind, this subtle form of mind, is present, but it's in a dormant state. It does not actually engage with the objects and so forth, sense objects and concepts and so forth, which are engaged with the grosser levels of mind. So now, however, it is the case that this mind is beginningless, has no primordial, and is constant. But for people who have not entered into the path, it only appears actually when the grosser levels of mind, these like sensory awarenesses and conceptualization and so forth, have dissipated when one is entering into the death state. And when one dies, then this mind actually becomes manifest, becomes a manifest form of mind.
Oh yeah. 多把军呢，他们这人的现了，他来想起虽讲新民主入山山的才切，是吧？等你打老百姓真当光把样太人的，但就你来吃话样，听你人哦，谁的，他都推广的，我的说多，有什么都出来听你，有没什么？有嘛他就为啥个什么都出来听你，老百姓真百姓。 按他看说的，老把推上去了，老把他真把他光把钱给宁波我都去呀，这钱为宁波的，俺那有时我都去话的人的，但就你来吃不搞我做我样，俺有时我都去话的人，啊。
So then the auto commentary explains that all phenomena are emanations of that very constant mind. And there's no person at all that knows anything at all which is not modifications of that constant thing. So when that constant mind is become manifest, then it. Nyuksum dugyuwa deni lokpatang zempatang gompanamgi nyingbu.
Zempatang gompanamgi nyingbu nyingbu de kange chedu gompangi nyingbu de nyuksum ngondu chawade.
So here then, so the essential purpose of engaging in reading and retention of the scriptures or what one hears. And meditating upon them as well. So you can read this as referring to hearing and contemplating or thinking about the teachings and then meditating upon them the purpose, all of that is for the purpose of actualizing this constant mind. And it's also the chief point for, which is the purpose for explaining the essence of the treatises.
Oh yeah. Teni ta kasore. Oh, they said to nimbo di chamba chewe, nimbo ti chamba chewe, tawa la labi, tawa xian yoba minde se. Ta di nimbo te chamba chewe, tawa la labi, tawa xian yoba minde se. Na tawa de la yujian ge tawa da yuji tawa ni. 是吧？有可以有这，有些是大瓦是呢，俺呢，你们那里这边有啥个什么当年多别大瓦，这个有，俺那当把人家哇，这些个现在了有些个大瓦汤，这有咱们当把人家了有些大瓦是这样有这的啊，人家宁波的全部这边大瓦了那边大瓦县有把名的，人家宁波的广东军温度娘是娘啊，去完的意思，啊。 因为他就这边有啥个什么的，广东军运动全年娘说娘完了，娘完吃完呢，他记得多少钱呢？他把跑马这边，那么他们下，俺那下去买完了，对我印的印行，我，天这月当把他娘这去来买我看人把这你了属于宁波，东把你了这就都关白，你。 当年拉贝提对那位带单着我，我说他就我说说，但你都生活的话， 가서래 님보대 다 재매도 이제 님보대 공도 경고도 냠순영화 좋아하니 있을 거나 다 많이 야전에 다중 공도 유전 아니 차제천 봉 어때와 나시 천이 와나바타바 파진도 가서래 남투마와 자네 아니 와나바타바 토네 아니 기름 탈신 아니 조정게 가서 아니 류라네도 님바 류진네 체사 아니 대화당 인가당 소와기 류진네 소사라 아니 미발네도 님베 아니 공도지에서 인보대 공도지 무슨도 냠선영화 좋아하네 아니 무슨도 영화 좋아하네 나 도시잖아 담바 파마제바 라마신 샤지 당하라 되야 텐텐데지래 이봐 신도 아니 계속 냠선 기름 타지네 아니 저런 그 값은 냠선 아니 아니 대지도 아니 타마 농우마신에 튼숨 체 되네 농우마신에 튼숨 체가 뭐자 인기 미시바라 신에 튼숨 체니 아니 되네 신도 차원 이마 살리세베 사크섬데 모두 주고래 된라와디 아니 돈이 자루도 껴고 인자 다디도 숨기도 오라 된라위 담바다 냠용제지 라메 매바 강기니라 시위 요 님보 동반이라 제지도 샤데 요 동반이라 원배 돈이 라비트도 내외 대단자와 무슨 통화대 가와 연구래서나 다지야 여사들라 배 여사다 전주 여사 니 여행하나 전주 여사기 내가서 아니 이만 해지 제외 여사기 섬데 그 동반 무슨 통화대 연구래 그래서 there's mantra면서
That's mantra.
야 아니 고다 하는 거 걸리거라 그래서
So then, so as far as the view that that functions to symbolize that, or that is, this is, I'm sorry. 닝부대 전부제배 다와를 학배 다와 신유 닝부대 전부제배 다와를 학배 다와 신유mente. 인부디 천바제배 다와를 라베 다와 신 여바 말했어. So that essential point, which is here this constant mind of connate luminosity, which exists within us at all times, is there's no view, other view, which is superior to that view, to the view which is indicated by that essential point. However, through the force of meditating upon that essential point, and someone who has been able to cause this to experience it directly, then without any kind of exception, they're able to, that happens in dependence upon the instruction of the noble guru who has received this instruction from an unbroken lineage of noble beings all the way back to Vajradhara himself. And so that occurs in that way. And then for someone who takes what is said by a lama like that, a lama who has received that kind of instruction and has the experience of it, then by engaging in that essential practice, as it's been mentioned here, then so who has that essential point that's entered into their own hearts, then and they place themselves single-pointedly upon emptiness, and by meditating upon it, then to finish out the commentary here on that verse from the Doha, it says that there's someone who is able to see it directly, that is the meaning of emptiness, just like someone who has a treasure that's existing within the palms of their hands. So this is referring then again to the entire process here of developing this. And this is explained in the sub-commentary where it says that through first you have to train yourself in the basic stages of the path, starting off with how you depend upon a spiritual master, then developing renunciation, according to the basic sequence of the stages of the path, and then up to and including training yourself in developing bodhicitta, doing that properly. And once you've done that, then you take a pure kind of initiation, the fourfold initiation that's been transmitted purely without any interruption, and take it properly. And then based upon that, you then properly guard and protect the pledges and the vows that you've taken in the context of that. And so all of these three things, that is developing bodhicitta in particular, taking initiation, and guarding one's pledges and vows, serve as, again, the prerequisites or the preliminaries to actually engaging in this kind of practice of Mahamudra here in the tantric system. And then once you've then done that and you've entered into the generation stage practices, and you've achieved the generation stage yoga, and such that you've stabilized that level of the practice, then as we've mentioned previously, through penetrating the essential points of the Vajra body, such as within the different centers within the body, so that there's the navel center, the heart center, and so forth, the different centers, chakras within the body. Then you engage in the special kinds of practices that are unique to the unexcelled level of mantra, these special methods of the outer and inner methods that we mentioned earlier. By that, one causes the wind, the vitality wind, to enter into the special points in your subtle body, to enter, abide, and dissolve. And that in particularly applies to the special practice of doing that with respect to the heart center. And when one causes the winds to enter, to remain, and then dissolve in the heart center, that then is the special method for enabling one to actualize the constant mind of connate luminosity. And then once one has done that, that generates the gnosis of the connate great bliss. And that gnosis of connate bliss, again, if you take emptiness here as the object aspect of Mahamudra here, whereas the connate great bliss is the subjective side of it, the subject which is perceiving that, then initially one has to understand emptiness conceptually and use that conceptual, that object concept as the object of meditation. Then through habituating yourself to that understanding emptiness via the medium of a concept is, again, this metaphorical luminosity. Then eventually, when one realizes that emptiness directly, then one actualizes the actual luminosity, and those two. This is the chief aspect. Generating or producing those two types of luminosity, the metaphorical and the actual luminosity, are is the chief aspect of, or the ultimate goal of this path of Mahamudra.
Oh yeah, 무슨도 통 주로체. 단유미 라신 치와 소소 지고 남지 무슨도 마동왜 다 소소 지고게 아니 유미 라신 제가 니만 해지 지외사 그 마동바 典型及出外企划绿些，安尼啥的好玩送吧，咸阳卡的温度均呢3.7，记得过度均呢明白家，现在基本上是提你，我当我们办样嘛，一弄写这个，安尼卡说的，卡的温度均呢3.7写的，让现在他妈没办呢，安尼现在。아랑들 현지도 집이 누만 현지 집이 회사에 다 남지 내가서 권도중원도 좋아나 권도중원도 좋아나 아니 조금지 3대 그 지차 가대 원도 주나 3대 지 세체 지대 고도 주나 member자 세대 연대 고도 주나 아니 말을 비면 받자라 님보테네 오 덴바상 안에 세가라 오 덴바당하세가 따따탕 오메 쳐봐야 마이스 따따다 쳐봐.
So then the auto commentary here continues by saying that with regard to that that constant nature, constant mind here, that childish ordinary beings don't see it directly, and because without seeing it directly, they're confused by the misapprehension of things as being real. That is, seeing things as existing in a way that they don't actually exist. And because of that confusion and that error of misapprehending things as being real, then childish beings are deceived, and that's what the arrow straightener, the arrow maker Saraha says. So that's the last part of that Doha verse, our commentary on that. And then, so what that is saying is that this constant nature or constant mind is existing without any beginning, primordially, but because of the confusion and error that is caused by this misapprehension of things as being real, then childish, ordinary beings are confused and deceived by it. And then it continues, the verse from the Doha continues to say that, moreover, if one has made this manifest, then what's the point of meditation? But if it's something that is hidden, then it's obscured by darkness. That very connate nature is not existent, nor is it non-existent. So that's the verse from the Doha there, and the explanation of this is that so that that Rangshin Lanke Nuxim de Gomki. So that
Rangshin Lanke Numi 7 days. Simbe. Rangshin Lanke Numi 7 days. Gomdo Jongo Joana, and the Jagong Samden Chicha. Said, and Kajon to Juna Samden Chi, said the chair. And when you go to Juna, Maribu remember Java, Maribu remember. And go to Juna, and go to Juna, remember Java. Anybody, oh, Dembatans, Tatatan, we may Chabaya Mais.
So then this, so the commentary on that verse then explains that this nature, which is the connate, constant mind, through the, if one has made it evident through the force of meditation, then what purpose would perform? What would the point of investigating it with analytical meditation be? And however, if it is something that is hidden, then it would be covered by, or would be obscured by the darkness of ignorance. And so that very essence of things then is neither an existent thing. Here, the commentary says that meaning an existent thing here means like real, something that exists, intrinsically existent, nor is it non-existent, and non-existence here is glossed as something which is totally non-existent, not existent at all.
No, yeah. And that someday travel, this is someday Judy Medica. Judy Megan Chita Judy, Sibi Chaja to one Mali, Rashing you must say Jan Lamba May, said that you all the turned out the Shagdua. Rashing you must Henji Java, Yosaki, some she chogu chaba, Sagala, and she did Chugusena, and around the Chua Yosaki, Nagaki, I know you must have Yosaki, some Chamo de la Sigari. Or Della. Or Rashing you must have Yosaki, see some Chogu Chabate in large. Tingy Gomdo Jungos and Yamson says that 어디네 가서 온도 제 지당 안에 가서래 회사 그 셈대 다 나죠 와라 치디 마인바 남디서 곰도 안에 가서로 곰도지 무슨도 념서 녀비 세나 안에 도제당 마저 차외 안에 도제당 마저 차외게 안에 도저 그 삼대 그 지시차 안에 세자야 지시에
So then the next line says that it's devoid of meditation. Since it's devoid of concentrated meditation, then there's nothing at all for to be thought about it. That explains that if we explain a little bit about this, the commentary on that line says that this nature, the constant connate luminous mind, is given the name of the Dharmakaya, of the basis. This is referring then to at the point of death, when for ordinary sentient beings, that is, when they die, then this constant mind of connate luminosity becomes manifest. So it's given the designation of the Dharmakaya, of the basis, meaning while one is an ordinary sentient being. But that very mind, which through the force of meditation practice, meaning here yogi or yogini, somebody who is performing this kind of yoga, is during their lifetime is able to make this something which is manifest, cause it to become manifest. And at the time when they're experiencing that, then investigation and analysis there's no purpose for doing that within that context.
Oh yeah, 아니 아니 추구 되니지 추구 잡아 되니지 현재 회사 그 추구 잡아 되니지 아니 곰도기 여사 그 셈데 망해 와 인다 아니 시비 찾아 좋아 말려 봐 류바데스 류소
시비 찾아 좋아 말려
봐
So
이제 곰도기 망해 봐 시비 찾아 좋아 말려 봐 류바세 류세데 가르레사 곰도기 망해 와 인상 아니 양 디기 시와 여사데가 파도 연잠처럼 파도니 제시도 연잠자니 아니 코요콜로 ቆ네 아니 도수야 저거와 인자 달리 되는데 임바래 와 곤도지 망해 봐 시비 찾아 좋아 말리 봐 리소
So then someone who has not ascertained that properly through the force of meditation practice, then here referring to ordinary persons, ordinary sentient beings who have not been able to actualize it and understand it through the force of meditation practice, then that very connate mind, constant mind of connate luminosity, when it appears at the point of death, it's called that, which is given the name of the Dharmakaya, of the basal state, or another name would be like the luminosity of death. When that appears, then because of not having properly ascertained it through the force of meditation, then that mind is such that it takes on the character of the intermediate state, and then subsequent to that, it takes on rebirth and so forth, and the entire process of samsaric existence continues in that way.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why the verse says that very thing, that very mind, through not ascertaining it, that is, ordinary childish or foolish beings are deceived by it and deceived by it. That's where the Doha is saying that.
시비 찾아 좋아 말리 리스 라신 요마 수장 람바 메세 가나 아니 가서래 된다위 가시 추구디 아데 류장 대다게 유미 라신 그 셈데스 라신 그 셈데 세 수장 라밤 초바 메데 초바요 마레스 다디 그주름 바 신도 아니 제직내 주도 주네 아니 뉴스인데 아니 가서래 남 고마 마도 파도 참 동반 연구소는 마도 봐도 아니 뉴스 되게 가르쳐래. 동반 연구소 도디 가라더니 bana but yasa gesem di teto de gana ani da tenda ji lianyu ge chiwa de gyun che de ka chi chi se lianyu ge chiwa gyun ma che de pa do ani yu sem de la de na ko yu ko lo ko ya che ro yi yang te ma do pa do ani lu jang te da ge yu mi sem de xian te ma do sui jang la ba mu chuo ba me de ji ri kang sum ji sem jian tam jie dang ya
So then that mind, constant mind of connate luminosity, through not ascertaining it properly when one dies and misapprehending it in that way, then not understanding its nature, then one is deceived by it, and that then causes one to descend or fall into the barda, the intermediate state, and to take rebirth, and the entire process of samsaric existence is perpetuated coming out of that. And so this is referring here then again to ordinary beings who have not yet understood the nature of that mind. The nature of the mind, that mind is emptiness, but through misapprehending it and apprehending it incorrectly, they are then the bondage of karma and mental affliction is not severed. That is, if someone through meditation practice is able to understand the nature of this mind properly and understand its emptiness in that way, then that understanding, ascertainment of it as it actually is, enables one to cut through the bondage of karma and mental affliction. But ordinary beings not having that kind of ascertainment misconceive it, misapprehend it, and thus are driven to take rebirth in the intermediate state and other forms of rebirth within samsara. So thus it says that although it's the case that ordinary sentient beings then are deceived, childish beings are deceived like that, the nature, their very nature, which is that constant mind, is not something that can be taken away by somebody else or captured by somebody else. It's not something that is like taken up by someone else or taken away by someone else. So this mind, again, is something that exists constantly, primordially, and it exists moment to moment throughout our existence. So this is not something that can be taken away by somebody else.
Oh yeah. Lambaya choba mela. Ji kam sum ji sem jan tam je da. Keba tuang. Ani da garan zo ka so re. Ani nga je kam chung den. Ani nga lam ki ani du je cho la nga je kam chung den go go re. Ida keba nga je kam chung den ba nam chi wi chen na nga ran zo tama wa. Nga je kam chung den ba na chi wi chen na. Da le wang ki ani na je to sun ye sa da ja wa cha ge ba re. Ma che ga tambo ju she raba yang ga rim ji ma tim. Raba yang ga rim ji tim be ta la ani kun do ja ju de ma tim. Ani kun do ja ju tim be ga la ani na wa shen be lu che ba shen be lu ye do shen be lu tai ga la ani na je to sun. De ga la tam je dong ba ye sa chi wa ye san ba cha li wa cha ya sun guo de. Nga je kam chung den ba na chi bi ji na je to sun ye sa da ja wa cha wi che le da de tamawa chi wa la na ji to ye sa zhe che guo de. Na ji to sun ye sa da ja wa.
No. So generally, then, with regard to all of the sentient beings within the three realms, and in particular with respect to beings that are born from wombs and that possess the six elements, this reference here is especially to, so for example, humans that are born from wombs, and they possess the six elements, bodies and minds and so forth. Then these beings, and they're specified here because these are the principal persons to be trained within the context of the unexcelled yoga tantra type of path. when they die, when all sentient beings in general, and particularly like human beings with 6 elements and born from wombs, or die, then at that time, what appears for them is four different phases in general. That is, there's a phase which is called light. There's a phase which is called the expansion of light, and then there's a phase which is called the approach to light, or the approach to light. And then the final phase is itself called luminosity. So these 4 phases are what appears. What this is in reference to is that during the death process, the ordinary sort of gross forms of mental activity that make up the content of our everyday lives, that is sensory experience, thought, and so forth, gradually dissolve while one is in the process of dying, so that initially the sense faculties start to break down and sensory experience dissipates or stops. And then in addition, after that, then even ideation starts to shut down. And there are different phases of this, and different numerations of the content of the different phases of all of these, the shutdown of sensory experience and ideation. But then once ideation is shut down, and then there are also physical sort of counterparts to that, being that the energy winds that animate our bodies are correlated to the different phases of sensory experience and ideation, thought that shut down during the death process. So in any case, as these things gradually shut down, and one enters into subtler and subtler states of consciousness or mind, and the last part of this is where there are these appearances of that are given the names of light, and the expansion or increase of light, and then the approach of light, and then finally the phase which is called luminosity is a name for that mind of death, the death mind, when that luminosity and the a constant mind of conate luminosity is made manifest.
Sorry, would you mind to just, for some people, to clarify the vocabulary for the Nangche Topsum?
Nangche Topsum? Yeah, sometimes there's 3 things here. It's called, sometimes these terms get translated as appearance and increase, and what's the other one? Near attainment. Okay. I'm translating them. Nangwa, the first one, the terms here, okay. There's three terms: aloka, aloko cheda, something like that. Aloko balabdi. The term that is translated as appearance is the original term for it has to do with like illumination, light, the expansion of light, and so forth, not necessarily just appearance. So I'm using terminology that has to do with the sort of light aspect of this.
Oh yeah. 아직 존댓말은 나지 좀 여자들 자와 차비 치러 대다라 사양 타마외 남도 주와 민이라스. 그봐. 야 타마외 남도 샤바 민이라스 이가라. 아니 아직 감춘데 타마와 가서 치위 채나양 시 아니 치와 여사 남공 오르기에요 이 말이. 타마와라 메시. 그봐. 단 난조와라. 아니 가서 시 치와당 남지 치와 시 봐도다 남지 봐도 아니 시 저와다 아니 남지 봐자니 어디기 내 타마와서 매대 대단 샤양 타마외 남도 주와 마도 봐라 난조와라 시 치와당 아니 남지 치와니 어디 여사 세와 여와 시 치는 동바 남바시 남지 동바시다 세니쇼 전에 상원 두바기 몰람나라 소만나 신전에 시 동바 세가라 시 동바 아니 시도 동바 전부 동바 탐자 동바 세가라 내가 알아들 찾고 말이다 시 동바 세가라 아니 군도라 배 동바나 동바 나와 신비 롱그 동바나 아니 가서래 신도 동바 쳐봐 신비 롱그 동바나 아니 동바 첨보 녀도 신비 롱그 동바나 탐사 동바 세대 다 인상 군도 자주 나제 토스를 봐 신도 가티 잡아 대단티 동바치 동바 차요 와 인상 대 타마 와라 차나양 남지 회사 매체 남도 주에 매체 단 나줘와 시위 차나 아니 가서래 롱테림테 팀에 대다 레왕 그마 팀기 와래 동바샤에 대다 레왕 샤르기 와래데 아니 남 소스 냠랭기 네테당 아니 시 동바대당 남지 동바니 오데 바세니 아니 시치와 여사 동인가나 탐제 동바 여사 차에 아 두세요 말에 시 있을 거야 진짜 디마
시 그래서
얘도 대다 시아제 타마웨 타마웨 남도 좀 문의세데 타마와 메주제디
So then here it says, thus, although that appears, that is these three phases of light and as well as luminosity, all of these appear for ordinary beings. They don't have the ability to transform them into the path. The the auto commentary says that here. This is in reference to the fact that, again, these different phases of these visions of light and as such that appear sequentially, and then finally the mind of death, that luminosity that appears at the time of death, arises. But for ordinary people, here this is referring to people who have not yet developed the skill in the yoga, the yogis and yoginis, who have achieved the kind of ability to transform these experiences or these states of mind from the ordinary state into transforming them into a path state. So there's within, for example, within the tantras, then there are different names that are given to the different phases of these sequential appearances that occur during the course of the death process. So there's and these four phases then are correlated or actually indicate different stages, again, of the dissolution of sensory experience and ideation that take place in the course of the death process. But for somebody who's achieved skill in the yoga here, then through the force of the path, they're able to transform, have control over this process and be able to maintain understanding of it through the course of the process. And then when they enter into the death state, they're actually the death mind, which is the luminosity itself. During death, they're able to transform that into the, use that within the path, which will actualize the actual Dharmakaya. So again, that name here, it's called the basal Dharmakaya. The constant mind of connate luminosity is given that name basal Dharmakaya, meaning that it's the state of, state of mind which is suitable to be transformed through the force of meditation practice and yoga into the actual Dharmakaya eventually. And then likewise, yogis and yoginis who have achieved skill in this kind of path can do the same thing with the intermediate state and take the intermediate state kind of mind, mental activity and so forth, and transform that into the Sambhogakaya eventually. And then likewise taking rebirth, the birth itself is brought into the path and transformed into the Nirmanakaya. So where we say the taking these three states of death, intermediate state, and birth into the path, that has to do with, again, transforming these states of mind from their sort of ordinary way of being into the actual path. So as far as the first four stages of this are concerned, that is the appearance of the light the expansion of light, the approach of light, and then luminosity. These are given special names in the tantras. The first one is called void, and then the second one is called great void, and then the third one is called extreme void, and then 신도 통바 신도 통바 되니 통바 첨부
동바
통바
동바 신 동바 첨부 동바 탐지 동바
탐지 통바. So the first one is called void, and then extreme void. Did I get that right? Yeah, great void, and then total void. These four names are applied to that, and each of them has specific specifications of which levels of like sensory experience, what kind of ideation dissolves, what kind of thought dissipates during each of the phases, and also like what's happening with the way the wind, the vital winds within the body are being absorbed and dissolving.
동바 세 돈이로 거면 뭐지? 하고 서.
Yeah, when we say void here, you have to understand that that name, void, is the first part of the word of emptiness, tombani, is the same. Voidness, sometimes that gets translated. But this is not emptiness as such.
그래서나 군도 신배 lungu 동바나 동바하체. 되니 나와서 되가라 군도 튕겨래. 아니 나와 신비 lungu 동바나 아니 신도 동바하체. 아니 제발 신비 lungu 동바나 동바 첨보체. 얘도 신비 lungu 동바나 탐제 동바. 그래봐.
얘도 신비 lungu 동바.
군도 제주체. 아니 나제 토선 그 신비 lungu를 이거와 대응을 봐 신도 아주 동거래.
So within the path, then what's happening is that the wind, which serves as the foundation, or the vehicle, one can say, for the different levels of ideation. There are 80 forms of ideation that gradually dissipate throughout the course of this process overall. So each of these, they're subdivided into different sets, and the different forms of ideation as they, what's happening is that through the different phases from void to extreme void to great void to total void, the different, the winds which serve as the vehicle for the different types of thought ideation they're empty. They're called, well, first of all, empty or void, because they're void or empty of that particular level of the wind which serves as the vehicle for that ideation. And because the wind is no longer active and has disappeared, then the ideation thought, which is based upon the activity of that wind, that particular type of wind, is no longer functioning, and therefore those forms of ideation thought can't arise.
Oh yeah, 다 대마서 등간바 파체 안보니 조라 가시 양다양도 티담 되장 아니 대화 준비 내니 시와 메데스 대신 그냥 시와 메스 안보니 조 니다 여와레디 안보니 조에나 안보니 조와라 때네 아니 대화 준비 내면서나 감치로도 풍화 송화 꽈데 아니 동반이 된대위 대화데 아니 대화 동반에 왜 대동이 시기 네 시와 그 내되면와 대화 준비 내니 시와 메데 도와래 침나 뒤 담에다 대신에는 요소 시와 메 제송바 따로 사
So thus, so again, not only that, as what was just stated above, that is, although, if the first line of this is that although that mind, the constant mind of coordinate luminosity appears for ordinary people at the time of death, they don't have the ability to transform that into the path. And that was what ordinary persons don't have that ability. So that was what was discussed above. But not only that, most beings of the desire realm are delighted in sexual intercourse. And they talk about it a lot over and over again. And although they discuss this all the time, they don't have any kind of understanding what the essential point of great bliss is, great bliss arising from sexual intercourse. So this is explained in the Doha itself, where it says that in all of the different houses, they talk about this a lot, but they completely are devoid of any kind of understanding of the essential point of great bliss.
Oh yeah, that nanjo wale, nanjo piani dawa chimbo ngor chibi, musum te, tombani yudu chati joba mado, xian sang, sang kanga ya joba jia mi chapa ino, nanjo bagi ane chijan chacha da nyamba joba tang, nangi jen ane lulani be nanjo, samde nigi dirim la sovagi, gombe topji, ane nyuma tenji chibi yosakis, dejen. 대화 제명 어째와디 유동반이 유두체디 잡아마도 안에 세상에 관계가 저와 지금 미쳐봐.
So thus, when ordinary people are engaged in sexual intercourse, they emit the essential substances from their bodies, and that means that they don't understand what the purpose of great bliss is. So here then, this is explained that yogis and yoginis, they're able to transform that constant mind into having the character of great bliss through the force of their paths of meditation, and particularly through the employment of inner and outer methods. Here, the inner method would, again, as mentioned, be the force of the meditation practice that they've cultivated, and the two meditation that they've developed through the two stages of the path of the Tantra, and then likewise the external force of the mudra as sort of an external assistance to the generation of this great bliss. And with that mind, constant mind, which has been has that character of great bliss, then they take emptiness as their object, and place their minds upon that. And apart from that, they don't have anything at all to talk about in terms of elaborating upon things as being good or bad in that way at all.
Oh yeah, 대답이 차진지 또봐 깨와라니. 아니 세응엄am 치들라 람가마라 자네 잠발라 때네 아니 우말 가서래 슈네 튀스 채와라 창화시이나 아니 어가 셈지양 미도바답이 미바 가는지라 다 미네 셈라 미바라 소바 셈 미도바라 따보라 미네 아니 가는지라 미네 미바라 때네 아니 다지 권도 샤바 나세 전에 가서래 나지 투스 준비운다 잡아 가네 아니 회사 찾아쳐 본 것음도 샤바 좀 그래.
So then if somebody has developed that kind of given rise to understanding of Mahamudra in this way, then and what that refers to then is through in some previous life, or if somebody has given rise to that kind of understanding of this kind of Mahamudra, then through either through the So a person like that who is given rise to understanding of a Mahamudra like this in that way, then through having trained themselves in this, either earlier in a previous life or during earlier in this life, then during the latter part of their life, they're able to, having trained themselves in this kind of path previously, then they're able, and there's somebody who's been able to develop it's such that they've been able to enter the wind into their central channel. This, again, is reference to that practice of causing the wind to enter into and remain and dissolve within the central channel. Then they can take an object like looking at their mind without any kind of thought whatsoever, placing their mind such that without thinking about anything in particular whatsoever, having that as an object or any other kind of object that they choose to take. And they're able to, with that sort of their mind placed in that way, able to actualize the luminosity, which is Mahamudra.
Oh, yeah. They also Dila Kaju Command on the Chicha with Tanya Zedis, Gabeles, Kasa Jambi Trojan, La Chicha one the Tambachas, Tatera Namala, Ani, or Lam Gomba Trojan Tedala, Ani Jawa Chima dela, Ani Mitoba Gomba Zamji, Ani Casore, charging Toba, Ani number Mitoba, Shimon to Chia, Sunguaris, Kasa Jambi Trojan, Chicha one the Tambachas, the Castle Lam Magomba, Mipa Teba Zamji, Ani Mayimba, Mama Gombala, Komba Yova Yizang, Ani Jawa Chima dela, Ani Mibala, Juba Zamju, Lava, Rava, Mara Komba Wangi, Ani Lava, the mother Lam, and a Lam Bezo Town, Bezo Tawan and Madoka, Madobara, Mayimba Che, Bezo Chimagoba, Mamma Komba Wangi, Ani. O Casore to combat of the any Jew lover and Mado, Bezola Tavan Mado by my Chichawas.
So then,
could you command at Chichawan at Tambacha,
so then there's a discussion now of there's a term which is called translated as simultaneous. Someone who is able to do something like spontaneously or spontaneously without any effort. And this is explained, this is in reference then to somebody who has trained themselves extensively in the path of Mahamudra, either in previous lives or in the earlier part of their current life. And so with respect to this person such as this, then the early Kagyu masters gave the designation of a simultaneous, somebody who does this in a kind of spontaneous way, that it occurs effortlessly, without any kind of effort. And this is explained in a text called the Kape, and where it says that someone who is trained, a person such as this, who is trained carefully in this, then is taught as being someone who's a simultaneous. What this means, however, is that one could be misled by this and think that that there are people that are able to do this just spontaneously or without any kind of effort whatsoever. But that's really not the case here. That it's quite clear that this is in reference to people that, through the force of their meditation practice in earlier lives or in earlier parts of the early part of their current life, that they have the capacity to be able to manifest, to sort of generate this Mahamudra sort of mind without focusing on an object using any kind of special thought or thing like that. Then they're able to do that. But this does not mean that these people have not trained in this path in any way whatsoever.
Oh, can't buy the Jetamje Kembe, and the Ringasa Dendo. Lumana Shua Changwa Shigi, Serangama Lumana Shua Changwa Shigi, Mibachila Dejang, Luman Dua Shinang, say, kind of Bezo Chambola Madeba, Luman, Angamaki, Combe Wangi, any Bezola Madeba, Luma Shuba, and Casore, Dua Shi, you are a son, she Sumbatadang, and you got you command. Kasa Jambi Trajan, Chicha one at Tambacha, say, Tita, the digital.
So this is explained also by Tsongkhapa J. Rinpoche, the omniscient Lord, who in his commentary on I believe this is a commentary on the Sodan. So it's the lamp, shining lamp for the 5 stages of the completion process or completion stage practice. And he says there that for someone who is trained in how to cause the winds to enter into the central channel, then even if they don't focus their mind on any kind of object, a specific object at all, they're able, it appears that such people are able to collect the winds into the central channel. So that exposition in that text comes down to the same essential point as what the early masters of the Kagyu tradition have said.
Oh yeah, that 장바 첨부 말을 남 장바 멤버 텐제 있나 아니 토마 우만 두비 체도 도자기 아니 차정원도 쳐봐라 나지 차정원도 이만 현재 집에 회사 그랬으면 대화를 아마 쳐봐라 아니 유성원도 주고래 유성원도 주와라 뒤가로 유성원도 제바게 탑 아니 또 뭐 공부하다 써봐다 고그래스 지지매래 원도 나로 마비 가서 신도 나로 치루 안에 저 공배 니나라 또 뭐여로 체루 공배 안에 찾아쳐 본 것도 주봐.
So this, we know that this is the case, that, and likewise that for people who have not formally trained themselves in previous lives or earlier in their lives, it's not the case that you can't produce this Mahamudra. One cannot cause this constant mind of connate luminosity to be manifested spontaneously or just without any kind of effort at all. That's not the case. We know that we know that it is not the case because in order to actualize this Mahamudra of this path, someone who is a disciple, to cause this to happen, then they definitely have to practice meditation on the inner fire and so forth, Chandali or Tumo practice, those kinds of yogas. Because if we think of even the case of Jetsun Milarepa, the great yogi Milarepa, then earlier in his life, or at the beginning, he practiced the 6 dharmas of Naropa, Naro Chuduk, the 6 dharmas of Naro, according to the way in which they are explained by Naro and Marpa. And by having cultivated that kind of meditation, that was his principal practice, then he was able to actualize the Mahamudra. And so he explains that. And within the 6 dharmas of Naro, of course, there's the practice of the inner fire, inner heat.
Oh yeah. 안 추루 공배 또 찾아쳐 온도 좋아돼. 아니 지중기 아니 롱도 맞아. 찾아쳐 따와 종. 찾아쳐 공배 따와 종. 나를 추루나 또뭐 공부라서ပဲ나로 추루 공부대 공부기 종. 아니 찾아야 봐대. 타람 삼모 줘봐. 바제티 찾아줘 봐. 아니 타람 삼모 줘봐 종. 아니 구성원도 줘봐대. 구성 힘도 생기 줘봐대. 아니 대비 종 전에 다도 송도.
So then Jetsun Mila himself said in some of his statements that Mahamudra is the fortress of the view. The 6 dharmas of Naro are the fortress of meditation. The profound path of method is the fortress of practice. This probably refers to the path of passion. And then the spontaneous 3 kayas are the the fortress of the result. So he said that quite clearly there.
Oh yeah. That any 대단 어디니 두모 공부하다라 두모 아동생 아지다 뭐가체 대단 tumba 제4번지장 나로 체루 제제제 매라 연제 대례매에서 매라 연제다 제송하다 나도 당아지 제베 저 간보바자 토마 두모 공부 유성원도 좋아 소 안에 신도 많고 어야.
So similar to that, then it's the same thing is held by the Lord of Dharma, Sakyapandita, where he says that the instruction, which is called the 6 dharmas of Naro, prior to, there's no one higher than Milarepa for that. So Sakyapandita also said the same thing. And then likewise, Lord Gampopa said that first, it's by initially having cultivated the inner fire, Chandali, the inner fire, then one actualizes the constant mind. So there's those kinds of statements and lots of others that are similar to them.
Oh yeah, that is Hindu. Didn't charge a jumbo combo lani. That combi letter jam my impact. Toma comgatella. And that you want to show an ancient number taba, tobata. And it is all down. Tomo Melama Jamba so, Goyate. That Gabegin and a Casa Tambi legend, Rimjiwani Damba Cha, Sigala. That Toma and Letambo Watetala. On a Jangan Letambo Watetala. Rimji, Dango, and it Tumulam Tumo and a Jandi, and a washing Abataba, the Niki Zokolam Bash in the Dangadi, Sunguari, Kansan Dilani, Rimji Vitanya Zedo.
So likewise, just like that, here the subject which is taught here, that is Mahamudra, in order to meditate upon it, then it's absolutely essential, necessary, that one initially, as a beginner, we have to do it as we've explained it already. That is, you have to develop renunciation. You have to do the stages of the path practices and gain some skill in those, and knowledge and facility and experience in those basic stages of the path, up to and including the development of bodhicitta. And then, in addition to that, one has to obtain the 4 initiations in a pure, correct fashion. One has to develop. Then one has to also okay, I'm sorry, I have to restart that translation over again. In order to do the meditation on the Mahamudra, which is taught here, then one necessarily has to train oneself in the path, which is common, the common path. Here, that again refers to the stages of the path, starting from relying on serving a spiritual master up to and including development of bodhicitta. Then one has to receive and obtain a pure 4-fold initiation. One has to develop the generation stage, completion stages of yoga, and so forth. This is likewise explained exactly in the Kape, which is a foundational text here for early Kagyu masters. It says that for a person who is a beginner, then one should teach these things sequentially. And that statement coincides in intent with exactly what has just been said.
Oh, yeah. That is Kasa and Tena Lamdi Chujan, Paje Lamiji Gido Soji, Wangula Shuatang. Wangula Shuatang. Wangula Shuatang. Gibaran Bash into Shua. Choja Saban Jijang, Narotawa, Wanguta, Remi Chiki, in Zote. Silko Injang, Chacha Wanyasulambata, Wangu Wadang, Gizok Lamrimbani, and a Chizo Teva. And in Mela Ravejang, Ming Asset, Tezo Yanjana, Puji Haji Gawa, Haji Gawa, Yanata, you go Wandang, and it's Chilavdang, someone you get Angana, Jingi Yinsi, or that song to see.
So the early Kagyu masters gave the designation of a sequentialist, a gradualist, someone who follows the path gradually, or sequentialist, somebody who does it in sequence, to persons such as that, designated them with that name. Thus, this path, most of the great adepts of this path exist within the lineage of the initiations for each of the individual tantras of the unexcelled Yoga Tantra class. And likewise, this is stated within by the Lord of Dharma, Sakya Pandita as well. He says that I take as the principle among the dharmas the initiations that have come down from Narotapa and the 2 stages as the chief of the Dharma. He said that. And then also then Jetsun Milarepa said, So Jitsu Miller said also then someone called me like at this time when I listened to it, if I should be looking at Mingatsati. When I listened to this, then for you, O son, addressing one of his disciples, he said, you have the good fortune of the divine dharma. The entrance to that is the initiations and the So the door to that, this dharma, divine dharma, is the initiation and the blessings, empowering blessings that come. And then once one has received those, then I will give you the instruction on the profound oral transmission of this profound instruction here, again in reference to Mahamudra. So Jetsun Mila says that.